Welcome to TimeBender Talks, the ultimate destination for professional photographers. This weekly podcast is hosted by Peggy McCartha, a certified professional photographer with over 30 years experience and the creator of the Headshot Strategist certification program. Peggy interviews a diverse range of experts in business, branding, marketing, networking, and photography. So whether you've been doing this for years or you're just starting out, we've got you covered. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest episodes filled with tips, insights, and lots of fun.
Corey, I am so excited to hang out with you today. Corey is an amazing photographer, and he does some phenomenal work. I kind of fell in love with his stuff. I found you on TikTok. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I found you on TikTok, and I have convinced him to be my friend. I'm like, please be my friend. You're so cool. So introduce yourself and tell everybody where you're at on your journey of photography.
My name is Corey Denbeck. I live on the S01 Islands. It's a small island archipelago off the coast of Washington, and I shoot just about everything. It's a kind of a small market, so there's only during the wintertime there's 7,000 people who live on the islands, and during the wintertime during the summertime it explodes to 30 or 40,000, and lots of tourists and destination weddings. So I sort of wear like a jack of all trades. So I'll shoot real estate, weddings. I love landscape photography. So I'm constantly whenever I need a break, I'll go and shoot landscape photography. I get hired regularly by tourism boards in the Pacific Northwest, Visit Long Beach, visit the San Juan Islands, travel Tacoma to do photography and videography work for them. And that's about it. I guess, I don't know. I got to do lots of little random things, but.
So because I know a little bit about you and your past. So when did you discover that, hey, I'm passionate about photography and I'm going to make this my career? It's not just going to be a hobby. I'm going to jump in and do this. Was there a turning point, or has it always kind of been there?
When I was 18, I joined the Army as a photojournalist, and the school that the Army has for photojournalism has an extremely high failure rate. It's 50% of the people or more who take this course don't pass it the first time through, and then you get two chances, and the second time you get reclassed into some other job, and they have it's a 2-year journalism degree packed into 6 months, and they had 2 of the weeks where it was 2 or 3 of the weeks was photography. So they gave us we were the first class that got digital cameras, so we got our hands on the Nikon D1s at the time, or D1Xs or D1Hs or something, and so we had this brand new $5,000 camera at the time, and I'm 18 years old, and I just had a little bit of a knack for it, and so it's kind of what drew me in. And then I wound up leaving photography for a long time because I didn't really understand the business side of things, and then I became an accountant, and then worked in public accounting for a long time. I was the CFO of a travel magazine for a little while, and then that's when I started going, I kind of want to get back into photography. And then I wound up leaving accounting behind, and I now do photography and videography full time.
I think that's a real problem for the majority of people, is that, oh my gosh, I love photography. I'm talented at photography. I'm going to do this for a living. And they don't realize that it's a photography business.
Yeah.
A business. It's you got to run the business.
Yeah.
And,
It's because business isn't always common sense. And so I, as an accountant, sometimes some of the things I do as a photographer are even my wife is why are you doing that? And I'm well, there's a reason for this. Especially when it comes to marketing. I do a lot of I'll spend a lot of time like covering local events. Like did like a photo booth for Pride Festival a few weeks ago. I was actually sick, so I had to set up everything. My wife actually shot everything, and it turned out good. I edited it, but we do stuff like that, like do like July 4th festivals to like market sort of value first sort of marketing. And then now I'm working on a commercial to start targeting off island people for like wedding destinations and things like that. So yeah. Ooh.
I'm a big believer that when you get involved in your community, I like the way you said, I don't know why I've never heard that term before, but value first. Like, hey, this is what I do. I'm here. Let me get involved. Let me be a part of the community. I think the more you're seen, the more people, the more, oh, wow, look. And not only that, but you can feel good about it. Like,
yeah.
It's probably something I would do whether I got paid or not. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, there's also a time and place to like do the value first thing. Like, my wife tried to sign me up to do like free real estate photography for a nonprofit that has like millions and millions of dollars on their balance sheet, and I'm okay with doing free work. I think there's a time to be picky and a time to not be picky. Because I have like, if I'm going to do free work, like I either want to do it because it makes me feel good, and real story photography doesn't make me feel good on the inside, and so it's like and then doing work that like they would pay other professionals for, doing it for free for them, because I can't write that off. Like you can't write off a service to on your taxes. So if you donate photography services, there's no financial benefit for you whatsoever. So I replied, I was like, no, like this is something you have to pay me for, because one, I don't think they're doing a great job in their role anyways, but two, they have millions of dollars and they have no problem spending that money on architects and on lawyers and all sorts of other things, because they have a value service that they gladly pay for. But when it comes to photography, people like sometimes are like take it for granted, and I'm not okay with that. But if it's like something like social or civil rights, or if I'm helping like a 18-year-old kid who has to have a headshot for like a college application and they don't have any money, I love doing that. I just don't. I think you got to be picky on when you choose to do free work, I guess.
So let's talk about something that you just said, and that is taking photography for granted. And I think that's my biggest pet peeve, is that because people consume images and photography different now than they did, 20 years ago. Everybody has a cell phone in their pocket. Everybody has a camera. It's the quickest, they love this picture for like 12 hours until they take a new one that they love. So people are consuming images differently. And even though what we do is way different than Uncle Joe that just bought a camera, or Susie over there with a cell phone, what we do is different. I feel like a lot of times people take that for granted. They take all the hours of training, the editing. Like I've seen, like I'm going to talk you into doing a workshop on editing, because like your retouching stuff is mind blowing. It's next level stuff, and people take that kind of stuff for granted. They don't understand that not only does it take us hours to do, but it took us hours and hours and hours to learn. And the amount of money that we spend on our equipment, on our software, on our computers, both, before we hit record, we were both like having computer issues today. So it was like,
my computer's like, I mean, it's like a $6,000 computer. And then I have thousands of dollars of software on it. And my cameras are all thousands of dollars. My lenses are thousands of dollars. I just bought a whole vest that will with a mechanical arm that will hold a gimbal and a camera, so I can get smoother footage. And that was thousands of dollars. This stuff is pricey. And not only that, but like I can spend 4 hours editing a single image. If I have like because there's like, to me, there's like two different types of, like, if I'm doing a headshot, not a headshot or a family photo shoot, or there are like business purposes, and then there are like, they want a good, they just want a nice family photo. So I'll retouch everybody, and like there's like a light retouching, and then there's like I need one amazing image,
Right.
Retouch, and that will easily take me 4 hours to do. On top of like shooting, because a lot of people also think of like photography as like one click of the button. You know what I mean? Like take one. A lot of my images, even portraits, I'll shoot bracketed. Where like some of my landscape images are 70 to 200 like individual images that I'm like taking certain parts of and merging, and you know, that takes a lot of time to do. And then but then, you know, so they get a lot of positive attention too. So
your stuff is mind blowing. Like I've gone to your website, I've gone through, I'm just like, man, this guy is so talented. Like I lived in Monument Valley, Utah for 8 years in that area. Okay. So you would think, oh my God, I bet Peggy has just breathtaking pictures of that because it's so beautiful. No, I have I have breathtaking portraits that I took in that area, but that's not like, landscape is not my thing.
I love Monument Valley so much, and like every time I go through there, I bungle my shots. From like Moab to like, I just, for some reason, like I look at them, I'm like, I wish I were like a little bit more knowledgeable when I took those photos. I don't get to go down there that often. I usually go down that way like once every 2 or 3 years, and I really want to go down this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I go down there, I want to bungling my shots. But yeah, I think for me, a large part photography is about like solving problems. Like the art is like sort of the end thing. Like the other night, I was on the coast, and I had like 3 lights set up, and it was the middle of the night, and I asked like, is it possible to freeze the wave action and shoot the Milky Way in a single shot? And I haven't edited those photos yet, but I think it is. Like, so like I had like 3 lights set at a distance that were strobing the waves crashing on the rocks, and then so because when you take night astrophotography on the coast, like the water is all like foggy and long exposure, and I was like, can I break that? Like, can I figure out a way to do this in a way that like I can get the waves like sharp and the Milky Way in a single like image using like rear curtain sync on my strobes. And then and you can, but like there's definitely like I'm gonna have to figure out how to like edit that a little bit more. And I figure like if I do that like 100 times, I'll master that. But it's like weird problems like that. Can I do this? Can I like? Would this be possible? Would this be like how do I take a shot and make it super complex? And so like a focus stacked HDR where I'm getting the grains of a sand on the beach all the way through like this landscape. Like I shot this image that I won like a first prize at like contest, and the image was like a failure to me because what I did is I put a macro lens on and I did a pano of like individual grains of sand on the beach that went up to like this big like dramatic background, and it was like, and I shot it. So I shot a focus stacked, and then I shot it in HDR. So I had to like take like 20 images and then change exposure settings, take 20 more images, change exposure settings, take 20 more images, slightly move it, and then do the process over and over. And then I get back, and I turns out that I didn't shoot at a high enough aperture. I was shooting at like f13, and I should have been shooting at like f22 because the beach was like zebra striped, focus, out of focus, focus, out of focus, focus, out of focus, and I couldn't clone stamp it out. So it's one of my great photos, but I actually won first prize with that photo too. So it's weird, I guess.
That's actually funny, because you know your greatest failure, and somebody else was like, "Oh my God, this is so amazing."
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I like to. I like finding ways to like make it ultra complex, or like going reverse. Like I started doing a series of like I'm terrible at wildlife photography. Like I just don't have the patience for it. Like if I go out and shoot like an elk or something, if I'm in the mountains and I see like a herd of elk, like 90% of the photos are just like the elk's butt, and because they just like they see me and they just turn around and so but I was like, what if I just crop the animal out and then just get rid of all the background and then make it black and white and use the white of the paper as so then I like printed them out on like these textured papers and it looks really cool. They turned out like amazing. And I just so it's either I really simplify it or I like make something so obscenely complicated that it's um, um, mostly it's the obscenely complicated. Like, can I do this and make that work out? And sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I don't know.
I think I get like that. I like the challenge of something.
Yeah.
I think because I mean I've been shooting for a really long time, and there's times that you just kind of get mundane. You're like doing the same thing. I do a lot of studio work, so like everything is pretty much set up for me. Like there's not a lot of things that are going to surprise me, and so every once in a while I just have to like, okay, I need to go challenge myself. I need to go learn something. I need to go do something. I'll see a picture or something. I'll be like, that's really cool. Let's see. How can I do that? And figure it out, because you got to like keep your mind sharp. It's so easy to get in that rut and just get lazy.
Well, yeah. And at the same point in time, like sometimes I see photographers, since I love astrophotography, right? And I saw this article about this photographer who was he took a infrared modified camera, where basically you can do it with any camera, but you take it and you just like rip off someone professional takes off a part of the sensor, and so it lets the infrared light come through. This photographer, and if you do that, but you also wear sunscreen, it gives the people like a really strange look. And so this photographer was like did a shoot of portraits of like athletes and stuff, and they were really cool, but he was like, it's the secret, I'm not telling anyone how I did this because no one should know. And everyone who's ever messed with an astro modified camera, there was just like sunscreen and an astro modified camera.
Yeah,
it makes you look all weird, like because it like the sunscreen like reflects back, and it turns you into like this really shiny metallic look. And I was like, that's easy. Like, why is he being so secretive about it? Like every astrophotographer who accidentally wore sunscreen the day before and shot themselves on accident at night has seen that weird effect when they cross in front of their camera during a time lapse or whatever, and or when they're preparing or things like that. I was like, I mean, I feel like people should be like helpful. I feel like photographers are either like super helpful or they're like super like gatekeeping, and I like to be the super helpful kind that like guides people through.
I honestly believe, and I say this all the time, but when we help each other, we raise the bar for everyone. When we're trying to undercut each other, all we're doing is like kicking the foundation out from underneath ourselves. We're not going to get any bigger either. We're going to stay right here. But if I pull you up and then you learn something and you pull me up and, we're all working together, we can charge more money. We can live a happier life, and we're going to be able to like just really get that difference between the amateur and what a professional can do. I hate when I see professionals acting like jerks to each other. It's like, we're not competition. Your art is so much different than my art. Your personality is different than mine. We got
that and like there are people who are like I'm good technically. I have shot portraits on and off for 20 years. And still to this day, I will like be in the middle of a portrait session and they'll be like, okay, now pose me. And I'm like, I freeze up and I don't know why, because I have posed God knows how many people, and still like if like I start to like I try not to say pros, I try to say like direct people, but like because posy sounds too bad. But I'll like be like, okay, turn, twist your head slightly, like be yourselves, but like still like, but I will still freeze up. Like I don't know why I do it. And even though I've seen everything, and there's only so many different ways you can pose a human being because their bodies only move certain ways, I will still be like, and yeah, so like I'm jealous of people who are like great at that, and I'm always like, if it's like nature, I'm like, I'm fine, you know, like if it's like somebody who's doing their job, I'm fine. Like I love doing like editorial style, like someone making a cup of coffee or someone like, but as soon as it's like make me look pretty, and I'm like, yeah, it bothers me.
It's funny because I've always felt really insecure. I am a technical shooter. I know all the things, but I've always felt like inferior in that area. Like I don't like to talk shop. Like if you're gonna start rattling off numbers and stuff, I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah. I've got it the same way. Like I know how to use my camera.
I know how to use my camera, and I just like instinctually, I think I just know because it's been in my hand. So, but when you're asking, I'm dyslexic, so my brain works really, really fast. I have a very high IQ, but when you're going to ask me to say a number and say a word on command, forget it.
I'm the same way. Because I have ADHD, and it's like, probably it's pretty bad. So like a lot of times, and that's kind of in part why I'm also so good at photography, because I'll be like working on editing something, and I'll just have this idea, and it'll just like be like nagging at me. And so I was like in the middle of the night, I was like editing photos of a wedding, and I was like, I got to go test this idea out. And so then I like packed up my truck at like 2:30 in the morning, and then we live in like, we're out in the middle of the Puget Sound, and so like we're in like really dark sky, but in the area like 2 hours outside of us, you got Seattle, you got Vancouver, British Columbia, and so like in the distance there's a bunch of light pollution, but where I'm at is super dark, so I can get like really good Milky Way shots, and then and so like and all within like a 5-minute drive of me, and so I like snuck out of my house, and at like 4:30 in the morning I was coming home. My wife's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I wanted to see if I could strobe waves and freeze the action in the middle of the night. She was like, what? And I was like, but at the same point in time, like when I'm explaining photography to someone, I have like these really simple ways of, if someone would be like, wanted to be like, what's like with ISO, there's like all these complexities of ISO. And the way I explain it is like, it's like your mood. If you feel 100%, if it's bright and sunny outside, you're on a beach drinking a margarita, you feel 100%. If it's cold and rainy and it's nasty outside and you have to put in more than 100% of effort to get through the day, so hence ISO, then you go up to 400% because you got to put 400% to keep that same smile on your face that, it would only be 100% in Cancun in a poolside with a margarita. And then I was like, and if the darker and more miserable the light gets,
the more you have to give.
And people were like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then I use another analogy of like bread for aperture, where like if you're at f1.8, you take in a tiny little sliver of that slice of bread. If you're at f22, it's like most of the loaf of bread. And then people were like, oh, but like if you want me to get any more complicated than that, I'm like, I don't know.
I have never heard aperture and a slice of bread together. That I'll give you credit the first 3 times I use that. Yes. And then it'll be mine.
But it's true, like, because people talk about it in an amount, in the way an amount of light comes in, right?
Yeah.
And so, and they talk about it in the form of bokeh, but like they don't talk about it in like that. It like will take your scene and only keep a sliver of the scene in focus, or it will keep everything in focus, depending on placement of your subject. But like,
yeah.
If it's something super close to the lens, obviously you have to do something else. But if it's like a portrait, like, and you only have the person's eyes in focus, but their ears are, blurry, like I feel like that slice of bread analogy just works really, really well.
It's brilliant, and it will be mine after I give you credit 3 times.
Go for it. No, I don't mind.
I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm still in it. That's awesome. That's really funny. So why do you feel like it's important for a professional photographer to actually be skilled and know how to run their camera? Maybe you're not good at talking about it, but like, you know how to do it. You've spent time with it. I mean, when I was a kid, I literally slept with my camera. Like, I was that kid that was like, and I was in magazines, and this was film. So I'm like, I had a notebook. I'm like, okay, what happens if I take this? And then next week when my pictures came back, I would compare it with my notebook, and I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to try this setting. And,
Yeah, that would have been, and that cost so much money back then. Like I'm so glad I was like the first generation to use.
I babysat and mowed yards just so I could buy film and get film developed. That was what I spent all my money on.
The first newspaper I worked with at after I graduated from the AIT actually still used film. We had a dark room, and I got there and I was like, this is miserable. And then like 3 or 4 months after I got there, they were like, going digital. And I was like, thank God. But that was back when Photoshop was like, you could take your photos and make it black and white, and you could adjust. Like, you couldn't do half of what you could do in Lightroom today in Photoshop, in 2001 or something. And
I started using Photoshop in 2002, and Creative Suite came out in 2004, maybe the beginning of 2005. And I took a class at the community college, and just like mind blown how much, like, in just that was the really big update. And then there's been like a ton of updates in the last 18 years. And now there's this other big update they've just done. And it's like,
I started messing with a generative fill the other day, and people were like, aren't you worried it's going to take your job? But I was like, if you saw the images I created of the people, it was like the people looked like the hills had eyes. It was terrible. And so I was like, I'm not worried about AI right now. Even then, you still need someone to take the picture. Like,
well, and AI, I mean, that could be a whole conversation we could have. But what it does, I've been playing with it a lot in the last month or so. What I found it does great is takes glare off glasses, really good, like really good. You just highlight the glare and leave the prompt empty, put generate, and it's like, holy cow, like, perfect.
And editing glare out of glasses is a nightmare.
Takes so long. It takes so long.
Like, if you don't know how to do it, try to get the glare out of the glasses. So I usually have them drop the glasses on their nose a little bit, and I raise the flash up a little higher.
Yeah, I have the lights up. I have the glasses tilted.
That's not foolproof.
No, because they'll raise their head. They'll do some goofy thing, and but
and it'll be, you're like clone stamping from the other eye or from other images. It is a nightmare.
That is like hands down, that the AI in Photoshop beta right now is like, just to take the glare off the glasses. I'm like, thank you. Or like, it's pretty cool. Like, if you've tried to extend a picture out, it does a pretty good job of like looking at, to recrop your image. It does a pretty good job. Every once in a while, it just does something like, you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Let me try this. And you're like, what the heck?
I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this guy posted an image and people were like, that's not possible. And I was like, whoa. It's not possible in camera, but I could totally see how someone could get that shot. It turned out it was AI because I didn't notice that there was like missing reflections in this water, but it was like, grass on a shore of a lake, and then in the foreground, and you had like this pristine lake, and then a rowboat sitting in the lake, and then the background was like have you ever like stood on a beach and then you do like a 2-second, you put on ND filter, you put like a 2-second exposure, and then you just like twist your camera on a tripod and it gives that cool streaky look. And I was like, so that's all they did for the background, so they layered that over the sky and the other side of the lake. The lake, it was tack sharp, and then they did a focus tack for the grass. That's easy to do in camera or in Photoshop. It takes a few minutes, and people were like, oh, I didn't see that. Like, I didn't, and maybe it is real. And then I was like, I took a closer look, and I was like, no, there's
it's not
missing like the reflection of the oars that were hanging off the side. And I was like,
you do a lot of composite stuff though, don't you? Like you're really good at that.
Yeah, I like it. I only started like a year or 2 years ago. I started playing around with Photoshop, and then I started going like, because I like doing when I take a client on, I always send them like a questionnaire, like, and one of the questions in the questionnaire is like, are you guys super into something? Like, are you super into a book series or a TV show? And so I had like an engagement shoot I was doing, and they were like, we are super into dinosaurs. And so I
saw those
like dinosaurs in the background, and it turned out really good. And now when I look back at it, I was like, I didn't get the shadows quite right. I should have done that or whatever. And the AI is apparently really good with the shadow generation. Because shadow generation is just a nightmare. But I started doing that because out of curiosity, like, can I do that? How hard is it? And it's actually not that hard. And it makes people super excited because they still got all the normal shots. But then like they got like, and I didn't tell them I was going to do this. I just put it into their Photoshop, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I did it the other day for another family. As a joke, and then I turned one of the photos into like a Star Wars where they're holding lightsabers and stuff like that, and they turned out amazing, and people love it, especially when they don't expect it. And then when a client gets something like that, they're always like, you got to get pictures now, and it's always get a lot of repeat business from doing stuff like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So I love all of your nature stuff. I love all of your astrophotography. It's something that I don't feel like I'm that, and I say it's because I'm not that talented at it, or I don't have that gift. But like anything else, if I were to apply myself, I'm pretty sure I could, I could turn out some stuff.
Especially you just have to get away from the city lights of Southern California.
Yeah.
But like Joshua Tree, you're not that far from really dark skies. But I started out doing astro because I saw this amazing photograph of I have a friend who's from Slovakia. His name's like Niek Dragoniak, and he's a National Geographic photographer. He does all sorts of crazy stuff. But he was photographing this erupting volcano in Japan, and he had star trails blending into dawn. And I was like, okay, theoretically, I know how to do star trails. I've never tried it before, but how did he blend it into dawn? Like, how did he do that? And so I spent like a year failing at astrophotography. And the best way to get good at a type of photography is just take really a bunch of bad images. And like the first shoot I did was like, it was basically black frames. We could see like silhouettes and a few stars. And my friends were all like, this is amazing. And so then I was like, okay, I'll try it again. And then I got better lenses, and I got better cameras, and I got tools and things like star trackers. And now people are like, every time I share an image, it gets like hundreds of likes on, social media. And people are like, how did you do that? I'm like, it's really a pain in the ass, but the images turn out amazing. And so I like doing it. I don't know. It's just because it's, I took a friend out a while ago, and he was like, I've been here a bunch of times during the day, but it's like a whole new place when I go at night, and everyone's sleeping. Nobody's out there. You can't see where you're going, but like, it's like a whole different world. It's really peaceful. It's like you can, like, I've gone out in city streets in the middle of the night, and like, big cities like Seattle or Portland or Vegas, and not Vegas so much, but Vegas during the pandemic, where at 3 a.m. the streets were just empty, and you could get cool shots. And so it's like a whole new world when it's like that late at night that nobody's around to mess with you, and you just get to go and play around. And national parks are free at late at night because their gates are open, but nobody's manning them.
Yeah, I want you to teach me some astrophotography. I've talked to you about this before. Like we're gonna have to plan a vacation to go up to see you. Or now that
Or
I know
vice
you
versa.
love Monument Valley,
Yeah.
we could take because I can hook you up. I can take you way down into the valley
Oh,
and
that'd be
see some
awesome.
things that you probably have never been.
I actually bought we had a minivan for years, and we traded it in, and we got like a 4-wheel drive truck specifically for like Utah, Arizona, going through the mountains, because we've gotten into some pretty reckless situations trying to take photos in a minivan that has had like terrible off-road traction, and I got it stuck a couple times and had to get a tow truck to come get us, which is just embarrassing. So now I have a big 4-wheel drive truck that I'm like all excited, and I haven't been able to take it out to, the one reason I got it was for like to go out to like these really off the beaten paths places in Utah, and I haven't been back since we got the truck. So I want to go at the end of summer, but once everything slows down. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Well, we'll have to plan that out because we're planning a trip out there this year as well. So we'll talk later. We'll talk later for sure. So what tip would you leave our audience with as far as making this a career and actually like living your dream, doing this and just really living your life
So I would say that like there are like no matter what kind of photography you want to do, like if you want to do like real estate photography, because there are people who genuinely love real estate photography. Real estate photography relies heavily on like HDR and window pulls. There are things you can learn from real estate photography that aren't traditionally used in portraiture. There are things in portraiture that you can do that aren't traditionally used in landscape photography. Like there are techniques that you can learn in all these different types of photography that like if you don't have to become an expert at it, but like if you just shoot it a handful of times, like astrophotography changed the way I see light. And like the way I see light is way different now than it was before. Like in the daytime, I am looking for shadows, and it's just so much more clear to me, because at night, like a single street light 200 yards away can put a color cast in your image that just ruins your image. And so like you have to know how to like, what kind of, is that a halogen light? Is it what kind of light is it? Like, how does that affect my image? How do I need to adjust my white balance? Like all these different types of photography, if you just dabble in them a little bit, it will change how you see the type of photography that you love most. And that's what I always tell people is like, even if you don't like it, try it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then you don't have to make it your career, but like, or you don't have to make it your focus, but like figure it out, like learn how to do it. And so that little piece you can apply to something else, and it becomes like, it makes your photography so much better in the long run, I think.
I feel, I used to hate headshots. I used to think that's like anybody could do it. Like say cheese next. Like there was no skill to it. It was like whatever. And then now that's all I do is headshots. I mean, I do other things, but that's my main focus is headshots. And why? Because I found the passion about it. I found like, okay, so now I have this much of an image to work with. How can I bring creativity out? How can I bring emotion out? How can I make this something that's different from, what camera angles do I need to use? How do I get the emotion out of people? But I would have never known that if I didn't challenge myself. I mean, I didn't make myself. What's that?
I saw these headshots on this website like years ago, and they did something that they were like really low contrast, almost like black and white, but like the grain on the images was like so unique that I've never been able to reproduce it, and it always looks terrible when I do it. And it was like these simple headshots of these executives of like a London ad agency, and I can't figure out how to find this agency's website again so I can look at those images. But yeah, it takes a lot of talent to do just about anything, especially to become a master at it. Like, headshots included. I mean, everything is like, people don't realize how, and it frustrates me when I see like a new photographer who hasn't I think you should charge for your services as soon as possible. But like, my early clients, like I always like give a really good deal because I feel bad that I feel like I screwed them over when I like shot them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 10 years ago. And now that I'm so much better, I'm like, I'm gonna give you a deal because I kind of messed up.
I feel like that about my clients from last year. I always feel like that for my clients from last year. Like I'm always like, man, how was I that bad? I used to think I was really good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did real estate stuff there for a while. I had a client that came into my studio, and I did him, I did his partner, I did their vehicles, I did like all these things. And it ends up he like owns a whole bunch of hotels and like rental properties. And he was like, can you do my rental properties? And I was like, ooh, sure. Like, I'm not going to charge you for the first round of this. Let's go see what we can do. Because I know that like those, the people that do real estate, like that's a talent. Like that's like, they make these properties look amazing. And, and since, I did a bunch of his hotels and I did a whole bunch of things, and I got good at it. But the first time I did it, it looked like, like snap. Like I had to learn camera angles. I had to learn how to place my lights in there. I had to learn how, to get all the things in there and really, what lenses to use.
Well, then you
capture a room.
Real estate photography is, I've gotten quick at it. Like I'm probably the quickest at real estate photography than I am at everything else. Because I'm one of the island's preferred real estate photographers. But I also like will charge them if I'm bringing strobes to a shoot, like they're paying $1,000 or more. Like if I'm just doing like bracketed shots, then $300 or $400. But so I tell them like this house is $2 million. Like you're gonna pay for it. Like because and I don't limit I always give them the 40 shots they need for their thing. But I always tell them like these shots are going to turn out way better, and that's why you're paying more for them, because there's a lot more work and talent that goes into these than this house that you're selling for $300,000, because it's not. I'm just stacking and doing a window pull. It's not that big of a deal. But like bringing strobes and it is a whole other process, and then knowing the difference of that, like knowing when to do that and when to do that. Because I had a guy reach out to me and he was like, I just want to bring my cell phone to these real estate shows. I was like, no, what? Like you cannot like you can't do that. Like it's no matter how good the articles say cell phone cameras are, they're not that good.
The sensor's like so small. Like
it's like the size of your pinky.
It's like, well, there's 3 bazillion megapixels, and okay, so what? There's 120 megapixels. The sensor's still.
It's the sensor's still tiny. The colors, like whenever people send me iPhone photos, like, hey, will you fix this for me? I'm like, okay, but like you realize that these iPhones aren't good, and then they're like, but I got an iPhone 16 or whatever right now. And I'm like, I look at images all day long, and iPhone images aren't good. I'm sorry, they're just not. And you can get great photos, but like.
You can't do anything with them but look at them on your iPhone. They look great on your iPhone.
Yeah, and they look great on the little like inch by inch thing on social media, but like beyond that, they're useless. Yeah, I don't know. It drives me to the wall too, because I think that gives people the idea. Like I've taken great photos with my cell phone, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not the same as what I do. It's not like I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, that's I think back to being taken for granted. It's like, yes, that's great, and you had a filter applied to it, and and that's great, and you can use it for your Instagram or your whatever, your quick little thing, but it doesn't hold up in real world use. You're not going to.
It's like if just because I put a Band-Aid on my kid's knee when he scrapes his knee doesn't mean I'd feel comfortable doing brain surgery on him. Like, right. It's two different things. And people. conflate the two pretty easily, and it's hard to explain that they shouldn't conflate the two, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's true. Well, Corey, I have had so much fun hanging out with you. Thank you so much. I am going to ask you to come back so often. You're going to get so tired of
No
me.
worries. I'll find some more specific things, and like I've always wanted to like make videos and like teach people how to do it, and I'm just now getting to the point of doing it. So maybe I'll come back with more of a focus and something to talk about that way.
No, this is great. This is what this show's about, just hanging out and talking to other professionals. So I appreciate it. And
No worries.
and everyone else, I will see you next Thursday. All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.